Our global health problem we are trying to solve is rabies in Nigeria, and we are the octopus team. For pathology, what is rabies? Rabies is a fatal virus that attacks the central nervous system. The brain becomes inflamed and, if left untreated, can lead to death. After being bit or infected with saliva in an open wound from an animal with the disease, the virus can take around 2 to 3 months to reach your brain if no intervention occurs. Symptoms of rabies. Without a vaccine or medical treatment, rabies does not show signs until it has reached or started affecting your brain. Symptoms can begin with fever, muscle twitching, higher heart rate, fast breathing, or a headache. As time goes on, symptoms can become worse, including hallucinations, seizures, paralysis, and fear of water. How rabies kills you. When rabies first enters the body through a bite or a cut, the saliva from the bite transfers into the muscle tissue. The virus looks like a bullet-shaped capsule and contains a single strand of RNA and proteins. The wrapper version is coated with spike protein called a glycoprotein. This coat tricks motor neurons that sends projections to assault the site into bringing the virus inside. Once it is in the bloodstream, there is little to no chance of stopping it unless vaccinated. The cells replicate so fast that they force the infected cells to burst open and release the virus into the space between the cell. How rabies kills you. The virus has also adapted not to alert the immune system by leaving the host cell intact. The virus makes its way to the brain using the motor pathway to the spinal cord. Once it infects the spinal cord, it proceeds through the central nervous system. When the virus reaches the brain, it's practically a death sentence. The virus starts interfering with your communication and the nervous system. This can lead to aggression. One huge tall teller sign is hydrophobia, which is the fear of water. This virus has infected your salivary glands. It is extremely painful to consume any liquid, including water.
Who is affected by rabies? Who and why is it a problem? About 40% of rabies fatalities are children under 15 years old. Children of the ages 5 through 14 are usually victims of getting rabies. If children are not treated for rabies, there is a very high chance of them dying. In Nigeria, approximately 55,000 people die each year due to human rabies, with rabid dogs accounting for about 94% of confirmed human infections. There's a large population of stray dogs that are not vaccinated, limited awareness about rabies, and poor access to veterinary care. How does someone with rabies affect the people around them? People that are losing their children due to rabies are depressed and upset. Others are just scared of getting this harmful disease. There are others that could be scared of going outside and being around animals.
In this data, most dogs are vaccinated, but not all. Despite this control measure, rabies has still been reported in vaccinated dogs. Why is rabies in Nigeria a problem? In Nigeria, rabies causes a significant burden and obstacles. The high-risk community groups are children, butchers, and adult males. There are reports on dog bites abound in human clinics and veterinary hospitals, but only a minority are documented. Rabies is a problem in Nigeria because it really impacts the lives of children, and many tend to not be aware of the symptoms. And then after symptoms occur, it can be too late.
Here are the environmental factors of rabies. Animals, including domestic dogs that already have rabies, are more likely to attack humans in warmer weather, which allows them heightened tracking senses and better traveling ability since there are no factors such as rain or snow. This is an environmental factor that many may not be educated on because nobody really knows when animals are likely to attack. Anti-rabies programs are important because they can help educate people on topics like this one. Next are the social factors. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, which is why it's important to understand why rabies is such a significant issue. Because it's the most populated country, this means that there is a chance for a larger population of dogs as well, which then makes the risk of rabies higher. Rabies remains very prominent in the country of Nigeria, which could allow travelers from other countries to get the disease if not contained. This is why the social aspect of rabies is so important, because not only does it affect the people living in Nigeria, but also people coming and going from the country as well. Last are the cultural factors. First is pet ownership. People who own pets, especially domesticated dogs, have a close bond with their pets and have certain beliefs which can impact how they handle the pet. This may lead to complications with getting their pets important things like vaccines. Next, care access. In areas like Nigeria, some people may not have access to education on rabies, as well as access to care facilities to get a hold of the necessary vaccinations. Lastly is education. With organizations like anti-rabies programs, you need to adhere to the culture you're aiming towards and make sure that knowledge and cultural beliefs are factored into the information given.
Next, I'm going to talk about some previous interventions to combat rabies in Nigeria. Interventions to combat the problem of rabies have been patchy throughout the years. Because of this, Nigeria's stepwise approach towards rabies elimination score, abbreviated as SARE, is a 1.5 out of 5. This suggests that there are small-scale rabies control measures implemented, but the country is still working towards developing a national control program for the disease. There have been a few laws throughout the years to help with rabies, but they have all since been repealed. One still standing law is the Dog Control Policy, which is a part of the Animal Disease Control Act of 2022. This policy set many major guidelines for the control of rabies in dogs, including surveillance and vaccination measures. Even with this policy, surveillance measures have not been kept up with. Only 6 out of the 37 Nigerian states have available data regarding dog vaccination rates, ownership rates, and incidences of dog bites. The single most effective intervention strategy over the years has been mass dog vaccination campaigns, but still, the rates of vaccination are low. The rate of rabies vaccination is between 15 and 66%, which is well below the WHO recommended rate of 70%. So why have these interventions not worked? To start off, there simply haven't been enough of them. Because the incidence rate of rabies is so high, there needs to be continuous interventions, yet there hasn't been. Like I said earlier, there have been laws and regulations put in place, but they have almost always been repealed after a few years. Strategies have also not been effectively implemented, and this goes along with how they have also failed to reach the correct audience. Rabies prevalence is highest in rural areas where there is low socioeconomic status and low education about the disease. The fact that interventions have primarily been concentrated in areas where rabies isn't as big of a problem is a huge issue and the reason why rabies continues to be a problem. Our proposed solution dives into how we can increase the amount of previous interventions and target the correct audience. Our idea is to partner with the Veterinary Services Department, which is in the Ministry of Agriculture in the Nigerian state of Lagos. This organization has helped to get 1.5 million dogs in Nigeria vaccinated and has educated and raised awareness about rabies. Some examples of ways they have educated people on rabies is by demonstrating simple protocol of tending to a dog bite and pointing out the signs and symptoms of the disease. Sorry, I gotta breathe. Okay. We plan to help this organization through sponsoring them with our $50,000 so they can further educate and vaccinate Nigerian people and dogs. We will be sure to emphasize the importance of going to certain regions of Nigeria that need intervention the most. We will also make sure to keep in close contact with this organization to make sure that our efforts are accurately and efficiently being carried out. We hope that this solution will educate more Nigerian people about rabies symptoms, severity, and how to prevent the disease. We also hope that it will allow more people and dogs to get vaccinated against the disease so it is further prevented from infecting people. Lastly, our solution will help grow the Veterinary Services Department, which will further prosper their efforts towards preventing and combating the rabies. Lastly, our solution will help grow the Veterinary Services Department, which will further prosper their efforts towards preventing and combating the problem of rabies in Nigeria.